Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here at International Trade Live. And today I will be speaking about Brexit, the consequences of Brexit, and how we can mitigate those consequences. As I said, my name is Dirk Verlee. I work for Flanders Investment and Trade, which you could compare to Department of Business and Trade abroad. I'm based at the Belgian Embassy here in London. First of all, perhaps an introduction to what Flanders is. Flanders is that northern region of Belgium. Probably in the UK, you would call Flanders a country, because we are a federal country. Belgium is a federal country, and Flanders is the northern federal state, if you wish, of Belgium. It is known for its culture, its historical cities, and probably also for the First World War, in which tens of thousands of British soldiers fought and also sadly passed. We are still extremely grateful for the support of the British people to Flanders and to the liberation of Belgium. Today, we will explore Flanders' strategic position in the heart of the European Union. We are a small country, as you can see, with a small population. We have a lower population than the population of London, but we do have a number of trump cards, and a very important one of them is the infrastructure that we have in terms of supply chain and logistics, seaports, and airports. You can see in this slide how many companies from all over the world have decided to have Flanders as their European distribution center. And the reason for that is probably because this infrastructure is in place. You have 4 international airports, Brussels Airport being the one that we may know best, but also Antwerp Airport with a direct flight to London. And then, of course, for goods, really important are the international seaports, Port of Antwerp Bruges being the biggest one, also a port that has the UK as its first destination. The second one is North Sea Port, Ghent, which has a different focus, is situated between actually the port of Antwerp Bruges and the third one that I'm going to mention, the port of Ostend. One of the best known European distribution centers that we have in Flanders is the Nike distribution center. And it is important because all the products that are distributed all over Europe start from this highly automated logistics center that is located in a place called Laagdal. If we have a closer look at the trade figures between Flanders and the UK, we can notice that last year there was a growth with about 17.70% of the goods that went from Flanders to the UK. And those figures took our export figures back to the figures that we had in 2016, where we are very quickly recovering from the consequences of everything that happened in the last years, making reference to COVID, to Brexit, to energy, to the war in Ukraine, etc. You will also notice that the trade from the UK to Flanders rose also with a huge amount, and with a percentage of 134%. Most of this figure can be attributed to the exports of gas, natural gas, and LNG through the port of Antwerp Bruges that I mentioned before. We can see in this slide the graphs that show the same trade between UK and Flanders without the figures, but in a more visual way. And we can notice from these graphs that the trade balance between the UK and Flanders was positive for the UK in 2022. Now, what makes Flanders such a interesting destination for companies that want to trade, that want to partner or do business? One of the key trump cards that we have there is the R&D expenditure in Flanders. It is very high. It was in 2021 3.65% of the gross domestic product, which puts us ahead of all the countries that surround us. And actually 77.5% of this R&D spending was privately funded. So it makes us one of the most innovative economies in the world, very big in R&D expenditures percentage-wise. And then we also have added to that, additional to that, the universities that surround that we have in Flanders, like KU Leuven, but also Antwerp and Ghent. This brings us to a theme that is very close to the actual situation, the news also. As a result of these R&D expenditures, a big number of companies active in pharmaceuticals are present in Flanders. It is home to companies like Janssen Pharmaceuticals, a subsidiary of Johnson & Johnson, and also Pfizer, who actually sent tens of millions of vaccines to the UK, and that resulted in the fact that 90% of the COVID vaccines that were delivered to the UK came from Flanders, from Pfizer, basically. Key to that is the biotech industry that has a very big footprint in Belgium and in Flanders in particular. And by the end of 2023, the publicly traded biotech companies in Belgium, the end of March 2023, I must say, publicly traded biotech companies in Belgium had a total market stock capital of 40 billion euros. But challenges are still there. Brexit imposed a number of new rules, new bureaucracy, some of which you can see in this slide. And fortunately, I should say, UKCA is not on obligation anymore. It was actually postponed or suspended, but then a number of other ones are still to come and impose obligations, administrative obligations that keeps especially SMEs away from trying to trade in both directions. Flanders SMEs see it as a big difficulty and keep away from exporting to the UK many times, especially the EU, to export SMEs, and in the other direction, the same actually happens. So it is very important for companies to be well informed, so that when they export goods in one sense or the other, I mean, cross the channel in one direction or the other, there are no problems and no fines that are imposed on them. In particular, for the exports of food, there was a huge problem at the beginning of this year. You have to remember that the UK imports 47% of its total imports from the EU. And due to these new obligations, there were longer delays for food to arrive on the market. And subsequently, there were food shortages on the market. And this was especially the case for perishable food. And that, of course, is a big burden and makes companies keep away from trying to start exporting again. Great Britain imported 80% more food from Flanders in 2022. So that's a good sign. And I believe this is due to the fact that we inspired our companies, let them have confidence, explained and informed them. But it is a very big effort that we made, because otherwise probably the exports would even be lower. Another solution that we're trying to give to all the delays and the complications is setting up a platform called Gateway to Britain. This is a project that is under the leadership of Port of Antwerp-Bruges for the major pillar of it, which is setting up a platform on which the documents that are needed to do exports can be digitalized and uploaded onto that platform, and afterwards being used by, on the other end, the customers or the clients. This will help exporters a lot, and it is also very favorable for the clients, because today sometimes goods simply reach the UK ports before the documents are there, resulting in additional delays. We hope that by the end of this year, the initial version of Gateway to Britain will be ready. And later on, we will also announce the fact that there will be a one-stop shop, physical one-stop shop in Belgium, where SMEs can go and get support for the administrative procedures related to export. And in a third phase, it would even be possible to have electronic seals and track and trace systems, so that from one end to the other, the goods can be monitored, and that would even make things more transparent. And of course, this would result in a very fast link between our two countries. When a company is ready to invest in Europe, one of the best places to do that is in Flanders. A big reason, especially for companies that need to get goods to their clients, is that Flanders is in the center of an area of about 500-kilometer radius, in which is located 60% of the EU purchasing. And those 500 kilometers have their importance, because that allows a lorry driver to get from the warehouse to the client in less than a day's drive. I mentioned before the easy access by the international seaports and airports. I should also mention our dense network of roads and waterways, and of course also a stable political, social and fiscal landscape. On top of that, people in Flanders speak English and a number of other languages at all levels of education, which allows companies that set up in Flanders to also look towards other markets from Flanders. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is a special support that we render to startup companies in Flanders. Very recently, there was an initiative of my organization, Flanders Investment and Trade, to have a platform specifically dedicated to startup companies, and that targets services for investors in the region, helping them to find the right people and connections, getting them in touch with VCs, and also helping them to making their next steps in their internationalization. This is more or less what I could tell you about Flanders in a short period of time. That was allotted to me. I could go on for hours, but I'll keep it here. I thank you for your attention. And if you wanted to get in touch with me, on this last slide, you can find all the contact details that you would need for that. So very welcome to help you out from here, and thank you for your attention.
Well, a huge thank you to you, Dirk, for joining us today at International Trade Live, and more importantly, for opening our eyes to the opportunities that Flanders has to offer businesses. I wanted to go back to the facts and figures on imports and exports. You did mention gas and vaccines. So my question would be, what are the other most common products that are exported from the UK to Flanders or through Flanders?
One of the most important products in both directions are chemicals and pharmaceuticals. You have, of course, in the UK, a very big concentration of life science companies in the triangle, Cambridge, Oxford, London. We have our cluster in Flanders, very strong biotech life sciences, and the connection to pharmaceuticals is almost evident. Another group of products that I would like to mention is vehicles. A big number of vehicles are still being manufactured in the UK and then traded through the seaport of Antwerp Bruges that I mentioned before, and more specifically the Bruges or Zeebruges platform, which is Europe's largest transit platform when it comes to vehicle transport. Those are basically the most important ones, apart from energy that you mentioned before. And thirdly, I will also mention food and drinks. I think that around 11% of the UK food imports come from Flanders, which is, for a small region as ours, an impressive figure, I believe.
And moving on to the points that you were making about research and development, how important do you think this aspect is for businesses, and what other areas do you think that they need to explore or perhaps prioritize in order to boost their exports?
R&D is an area that is very important for us. We saw before on one of the slides how small in surface Flanders is. There's not very much space left for big manufacturing companies, so we focus very much on R&D related activities, high added value. Apart from the before mentioned life science and medtech activities, I would also focus on climate tech and renewables. We are very strong in offshore wind. We were one of the first ones to have offshore wind parks. And also everything that is digital, semiconductors, nanotech. We have in Flanders a very important research center called IMEC, which does basic research and applied research, then applied to certain areas of science in microtech and nanotech and semiconductors. 5,000 engineers work in that research center. So that's also where I would focus on.
And when it comes to the challenges that you also mentioned, I noticed that there's a big connection between the words challenge and change. So, for example, changes in customs, legislations and taxes. What do you think is the best way for businesses to keep up with these ongoing changes and therefore overcome the challenges that come with them?
Basically, and it also resumes a bit our major task as a agency, it is to connect and inform yourself. I believe that if you connect with the right people and if you get from them or different sources the information, you can actually address any change. In that respect, I would think that UK companies, SMEs, can find a lot of information on the internet, but also at DBT, Department of Business and Trade, who also have their delegations in the British embassies all over the world. By the way, we have a very good, very intense collaboration with DBT in Brussels, exchange a lot of information. We help each other out with actions that we develop on the field. So it's really a good place to go and get informed.
Okay, so the key words to take away today might be connectivity and being informed.
Exactly, yes.
Finally, why would you advise that SMEs, for example, use the Startup Flanders platform?
The Startup Flanders platform is relatively new, but they have developed a number of activities already. One of them was last week we were present as a platform at SIFTE, where 18 startups from Flanders got connected to VCs in the UK. I believe there were 40 of them in the room. So it is a place where people can meet, where they can connect and inform, be it digitally or in person. And from the platform, you can start also developing internationally. I mean, from Flanders towards other markets in Europe or in the world, because behind the Startup Flanders platform, there is the bigger organization, Flanders Investment and Trade. And once you are part of our ecosystem, you can use the services of both Startup Flanders and Flanders Investment and Trade for your international development.
Well, thank you very much again, Dirk, for sharing your insight with us. I think those who are watching will have taken a lot away from this presentation. So yes, thank you very much.